So that was Sharon Haskell there from the Israeli Knesset. I've been getting a reaction from UNRWA itself, the United Nations Relief Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Juliette Touma is their Director of Communications, and she says the UN is absolutely critical for getting aid and humanitarian relief supplies to those who need it most in Gaza and the West Bank.
While we had expected that this would be the case, it is quite a shock. And in fact, the biggest concern right now is the fate of the humanitarian operation, especially in Gaza, where 2 million people rely on UNRWA and its services and its staff for their sheer survival.
Just to explain why this legislation is going to have such a devastating impact on your work.
We really don't know what is the impact, and we really don't know when and if this bill is going to be implemented. What we do know is that if it will be implemented, the questions that are there to ask is who is going to provide food assistance to 2 million people in Gaza? Who is going to provide primary health care? Who is going to provide learning and schooling to hundreds of thousands of boys and girls, not only in Gaza, but those kids who go to our schools in the occupied West Bank in East Jerusalem? Who's going to do that?
There's also been the polio vaccination campaign, which the World Health Organization has been running, but I think UNRWA has been helping with that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was a joint United Nations effort where WHO brought in the cold chain, UNICEF brought in the vaccines, and those who put those very precious drops in the kids' mouth were UNRWA, were my colleagues, were the doctors and the nurses and the paramedics and the medical workers. It was the UNRWA drivers who put the vaccines in the cars and took them from shelter to shelter. Without UNRWA, the humanitarian operation in Gaza is very likely to collapse.
You were saying you don't know if this is going to be implemented. We know there's a 90-day pause before it is implemented, so 3 months. Do you think that all the international pressure that we've seen in the last 24 hours and the international outcry actually from the UN Secretary General, from the UK Prime Minister, from various other world leaders, could that pressure make a difference and stop this going through?
Let us certainly hope so. And meanwhile, we do hope that we can continue to do the work that we're meant and we've signed up to do, that is to provide humanitarian assistance to people who need us most. And meanwhile, we do hope that the international community and the State of Israel and the parties to the conflict, they focus, instead of focusing on banning UNRWA, they focus on reaching a deal that will bring a ceasefire, that will bring respite to people across Israel, in places like Lebanon, where I am right now, but also, of course, in Gaza. That deal would also immediately release the hostages. That deal would also bring much needed humanitarian assistance administered by UNRWA across the Gaza Strip. That's really what should the focus be on.
Well, you will know what the Israeli government have said and what members of the Israeli parliament have said, and that is that your organisation, UNRWA, has colluded with Hamas, and in fact that some of your staff actually took part in the October the 7th attacks last year.
So with regards to these allegations, the Israeli government has brought them forward to the attention of UNRWA. The Commissioner General has terminated the contracts of 12 of those staff. Then the United Nations globally in New York, through the Secretary General, launched an investigation. The outcomes of these investigations is that in the case of 9 staff members, if the evidence that was provided to the investigation, if that evidence would be corroborated or authenticated, then there might be the possibility that these 9 staff members, let's bear in mind, out of 30,000 staff members, there might be the possibility that they have participated in the 7th of October attack. Now, hand in hand, the agency has launched an independent review through the former French foreign minister. According to that review, this agency, UNRWA, has the most robust system in place to ensure that our staff and our program, meaning our work, adhere to the humanitarian principle of neutrality.